back to Design Basics. As promised, I am sticking with our color coach to show you a few more color combinations that you can use for making your cards, just testing them out, I guess, testing the waters for you. Today we're going to use one of my self-proclaimed favorite colors, new colors, is the Cherry Cobbler. Red is my favorite color, and this is just a beautiful shade of red. So today, remember, as we talked the other day, on the back of your color coach you have what's called the Dynamic Duo. It's showing you the two reds that coordinate nicely together if you want to create a monochromatic card. And this is Cherry Cobbler, and they're saying that Riding Hood Red is the complementary red to that. We're going to work with a creative combination, and remember you have your two power colors. In this case it's Cherry Cobbler, Daffodil Delight, which I am enjoying way more than I thought I would, and then another favorite, y'all know I love chocolate chip, is Early Espresso. So I again was a little skeptical of the color combination, but I really like how it turned out. One of the things that they talk about in the color coach, again, once you get it, make sure you read all the instructions in the front, is that they talk about how yellow is a good pairing with a lot of combinations. So that holds true for this one. So let's do this quick card, and I'll leave this out so you can kind of look at that as we go along. I'm going to use the stamp set called Artistic Etchings, and for my ink I have Early Espresso. Don't need that clear block. I took a piece of Cherry Cobbler cardstock, and I took a piece of paper from the Newsprint Designer Series paper. And if you'll notice, it's only embossed on one side, and that's because sometimes when you put designer paper on top of these impressions, because it's raised, it doesn't want to stick as well, or it doesn't lay as flat to mean you have a little bit of a gap. So I wanted to show you how I did that. I just took my Designer Series paper and I went ahead and stuck that down. Then I took my Vintage Wallpaper Impressions folder, and I took my cardstock and I placed it in like this, just so that I could see on the outside that my impression was just going to come right up against the edge of my Designer Series paper, and then I ran it through the Big Shot so that I don't have texture all over the back. But you could also run the whole thing through. It probably would look pretty to also emboss the Designer Series paper. But that's just a little tip to you that I kind of like to use. Okay, so that's going to be the base of our card. Now, have you ever done these vintage type cards and then thought, I don't want to do that because that's just way too much time, it just seems labor intensive? Well, hopefully I'm going to show you with this card that it doesn't have to be labor intensive. I'm going to take a piece of very vanilla cardstock, and I'm going to take my Early Espresso ink. What else I need, and I didn't pull it out, is my Daffodil Delight ink, and also the medallion. I'm going to take my medallion and I'm going to ink it up in the Daffodil Delight cardstock. Move this out of the way so you can see. I'm just going to stamp this down at the bottom, sort of toward the bottom of the very vanilla. Doesn't have to be exact. It's just giving us another layer of dimension with color. Then I'm going to take the Eiffel Tower that I've inked up in Early Espresso. This I am going to try to stamp down toward the bottom, and you'll see why in just a minute. Okay, and then while my ink is out, I'm going to go ahead and put the Amore. You'll notice on the back, this is my scrap. I tried it with the Cherry Cobbler on my Daffodil Delight, and I tried it with the Early Espresso, and I ended up liking the Early Espresso better. It just balanced out better. I am not a big fan of always. Now watch, the next card I'll do will be that way. I'm not always a big fan of putting colored ink on colored paper unless it's a neutral colored ink like chocolate or black or white or cream. Okay, so got that out of the way. Now I guess I can go ahead and punch this. It doesn't really matter the order on this. I'm going to punch out my Amore words, but I'm shifting it over to the right like this. Not worried about the back because again You won't see that. Sorry, I've got my things falling around on me over here. So I'm going to take this piece of Very Vanilla, and this particular piece happens to be 3.5 inches by 2 1/4 inches. And I'm going to create a tag out of this. Here's a tip for you if you want to create a tag. Cut off the corner on one side. Have you ever done this and then gone to cut the other side and it not been balanced and then gone back and forth? Well, this is going to eliminate that headache for you. So cut the corner off. Take that corner and flip it over upside down. Put it in the corner. This is definitely a design basics tip for you. And now use that as your guide to cut the other angle. And then you have these two triangles. I guess that's a geometry problem for you. So that your angles are the same on both sides of your card. Okay? Now, I'm going to take a piece of cherry cobbler. This is just a scratch. I used this piece for another card earlier, and I'm hoping this is going to work, that it's big enough. I'm going to take my Crop-A-Dile, and then I'm going to use the punch, the larger punch, and I'm going to go ahead and punch a hole like that. Now I'm going to take my 1/2 inch circle punch. I'm going to center that hole. What I'm creating is what's going to look like a tag reinforcer, or a hole reinforcer. Uh-oh. That one flew away. Alright, grab that. So there you go. Now I'm going to put some adhesive on it, the back of that. Doesn't matter that the hole gets covered up because I'm actually going to go back and punch that hole again. So there's our tag reinforcer, and then we need our hole. So your tip of the day for punching these little tag reinforcers is to make the small punch first and then go back with the larger punch. Alright, so now I also see where my hole is for my tag. If you're good at eyeballing it, or if you want to mark it with a pencil, then you go right ahead and do that. Okay, so there's our tag. Now, here's the part where it really starts to look vintage style. I'm going to distress it some. I'm going to use my distressing tool. This just has what's looks like a little razor blade or some sort of piece of metal in there. Just going to go around the edges of my tag. Now, the reason I picked the Very Vanilla over using, say, Whisper White is because that's probably annoying, that sound, isn't it? Is because the newsprint paper, the background of it is Very Vanilla. So that's one reason. If that paper had been white, then I probably would have made this white. But also I kind of feel like the Very Vanilla really lends itself to this particular vintage style. Alright, all that dusty stuff. So see how that is now distressed, and I even like it if the corners turn up a little bit here and there. It just really adds to the flavor. Now, distressing it is one step in making it look vintage, and another step is in using some ink to give it some age. And I'm just going to use the Early Espresso because that's the other color that I'm tying in. Just going around the edges. I like to hold it in my hand. Some people like to lay it down. I like to hold it because then I can control how much pressure I put on it. Maybe it's probably just whatever you get used to. Okay. You can give a little bit on the card itself. Don't forget your little word accent piece. If you're going to distress one portion, i.e. the tag, then I feel like you also need to distress other portions of the card as well. So in this case, I'm just going to go around the edges. One thing that's great about these dry embossed pieces of cardstock is that they really will pick up the ink nicely on the surface without you having to go down into the grooves, and it'll give it a little bit more of an effect. Again, so totally not necessary, but I kind of like it's kind of hard to stop once you get started. Okay. Let's finish this card up. We're almost done. Just, again, I like the corners when they get kind of bent and more tattered. You can even put a little tear in there if it doesn't kill you to do that. Really, again, just take out your frustrations, I guess, on that tag. All right, cute. So let's take a piece of ribbon. This is Early Espresso Satin again. Hard for me to get away from the satin. And I'm just going to tie the beginning of a knot. I'm not going to make it 2 knots. I'm just going to do that first loop. This ribbon has enough sizing in it that if you give it a nice tug, it will stay in place. Okay. Here goes my knot. I mean my clock. Cut off the tails. There's our tag. Now we need our little word accent piece. And to hold this on, I thought it would be fun to use one of these new vintage brads. And I may have used, oh, here's one small one left. You could use a large one too. There's one small one. So I'm going to use, just to make my life easier, a little bit of adhesive. Just to hold that in place. Now I'll go back with my crocodile again with the small side this time. Make sure if you're going to do this, because this brad is kind of large, that you gauge where it's going to go. You don't want to cover up your words, and then you don't want to have it too far to the left, too far to the right. Use a pencil if you want. I just aimed kind of for the middle of that gap. There we go. Now the only thing we're missing is some dimensionals. If you we'll put your dimensional near that brad, it won't spin. In this case, it's not such a big deal. Got an extra one there. Might as well use it since I tore the back off of it. So vintage is not so difficult. Then I'm going to shift it just a little bit to the left. Notice the sponging helps give us a little bit of definition between the white paper, the sponging on the edge of the tags, what I'm talking about. Gives a little bit of added dimension between it, since it's vanilla on vanilla. And there you have it. Pretty quick and easy way to do a vintage style card. I hope you enjoy. And also remember, again, it uses our color combinations from the Color Coach. I will see you guys next time for more combinations from the Color Coach.